Welcome back to Real Estate Investing with Alex Deacon, and this is another special edition, a part of the property management series brought to you by Mace Property Management. So this is a little a dual. There's some synergy going on here. This is like a little dual broadcast between Deacon of Real Estate and Mace Property Management, but there is one constant in between those two entities, and that is the Deacon of Real Estate himself, Alex Deacon. Good sir, how are we doing this afternoon?
As always, Adam, I am fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
It's still this morning, by the way.
It's 11:43. Still this morning.
Yeah, you're way early today.
I was extremely early, and I have no idea why today. Okay. My mind's playing tricks on me. Yeah. So now today, a part of the property management series, we already did basically property management. What is it? That was our last one. We are going to incorporate this week is going to be finding new tenants. That is what we're talking about. So, Mr. Deacon,
yes,
let's discuss.
All right, we're going to talk about finding new tenants, and the reason we're doing this podcast is twofold. It is basically so I don't have to explain this to every new client or prospective new client that calls me. Because the question I get on a regular basis is, hey, Alex, I'm thinking about having my property, purchasing a property and having it managed, or I've owned this property for 10 years. I was thinking about having it turned over to a property management company. What do you guys do? That's why we spent 10 minutes on the last one explaining what most property managements do and what are their responsibilities. Now, this particular session is going to be on the question I get asked, which is tandem to this one, is how do you guys find new tenants? What's your process for applications and evictions and things like that? So I don't think we're going to talk about evictions right now because we can do that in another session. We're going to talk about the process of finding a tenant, what we charge, and the process from starting to advertise to a tenant to finally moving in the tenant, having them sign a lease, and collecting a security deposit.
Cool. Good deal.
All right, so how would you like to start at the beginning? Would that work?
Well, let's start us off. When you're finding new tenants, it looks like marketing is pretty important.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the first. Really, the first thing we do is let's just assume that there was a tenant in there.
Okay.
Tenant's moving out. Here's the question we get asked a lot. Well, I'd like you to show my property before the tenant moves out. And in a perfect world, I would too, because I'm a landlord myself. I want my properties rented before the tenant's out. We absolutely can do that. If the tenant is just very sloppy and not very, they're not easy to deal with. They don't want you in there. And I understand in our lease it says, hey, we have a right to give you 24 hours notice and then show your property. You still want it to be a good relationship. So sometimes you get those tenants that just don't work with you.
Right.
So when you get those tenants, or you get the tenant who's very sloppy and they don't live as clean as you would like as an owner of a property, when you show it, it doesn't really help. It actually hurts. Okay. So sometimes you have to wait till that tenant's out. If we have a good tenant and they're clean and they're very easy to deal with, then we're absolutely showing that property a couple months before the end of the lease. Okay.
And not to, if I could just get one question in, if does a tenant's tenure in a certain unit or house or like that, could that make a difference too on because obviously you'd like to have it rented before it's before it's vacant.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But if someone's in there for 4 or 5 years,
that's a great question. So sometimes we'll get a tenant who's been in there 10 years,
okay.
And as soon as that tenant moves out, you're going to have to do carpet, paint, maybe a new kitchen. In those cases, we just have to wait till that tenant's gone. What a lot of landlords don't understand is you can't show a property when it's not done. Right. If you show it half done, unless the market is super white hot, white hot, people are taking it sight unseen, which it's not the case typically, then you have to wait till that tenant's out. You can go in and do the rehab, get it 90 to 95% done, and then you could start showing it.
Gotcha.
Okay, so one of our jobs is making sure the property is showable. Okay, if the tenant is out, let's say the tenant is already out, and you're asking us to take over a new property, the tenant's moved, we're going to go in there and assess the condition, and we're going to advise you where we think you should spend money. For example, we have a client right now who doesn't want to do the painting, can't afford it. Makes it hard as a management company to rent something when the place needs completely painted. It's bad. It just doesn't show well. Fortunately, we found a tenant. It took a while, but the tenant said, "Hey, I'll take this, but I want to paint it." So we're getting someone in there to paint it. So it's always best to put your best foot forward, have the place ready. We'll advise you on, should you paint this room? Or maybe we can get away with just painting a couple rooms, not the entire apartment. Maybe we can just have the carpets clean versus replaced. Let's put a vinyl floor in the kitchen. It'll show better. Let's paint the kitchen cabinets versus replacing them. All these little ideas and little suggestions can save you thousands of dollars by not affecting how much rent you're going to get. Like a new vinyl floor versus an old vinyl floor that will clean up is not going to get you any more money. So let's spend $50 and clean up the vinyl floor versus $250, because we're not going to get you any more rent because of a vinyl floor replacement. So those are things that all those little ideas and suggestions add up to a profit or a loss at the end of the year.
You said typically you advise it to be 90 to 95% done to be able to start showing it, unless it's
and when we're showing it, the contractor has to be clean, because we've shown properties where the owner has their own contractor in there, and they just have, in every room there's tools like spread out all over the room. They have hoses and coils and hammers and toolboxes. You just can't show it like that. Okay, so we help advise on, is the property ready, what you should do to make it ready. Next thing is we'll start marketing it. So where do we market? This is another question. Where do you guys market? 99% of our marketing is done online. What websites? I have no idea. There's so many different sites. We go to our Propertyware, which is our accounting software. That Propertyware has a system so that it gets it out there to a bunch of different websites. We're on Zillow, Realtor.com, just hundreds of websites. I'll tell you this, whatever we're doing works, because our vacancy rate's about 5%.
Wow.
Right now it's actually lower, but like in the fall or winter it was probably 6 or 7%. Right now we're running probably about 4%. So we average about 5, which is decent. That's acceptable. So we market the property. Then we're screening the tenant. We're pre-screening the tenants, trying to pre-screen them before we even show the property. Hey, I'd like to see the property. Oh, that's great. Here's when we're showing it. We're showing it on Tuesday evening and on Saturday morning. What works best for you? You can't show it when the tenant's available.
Right.
You get 10 different tenants who want to see it Tuesday night, Monday morning, Wednesday. Look, these are the times we're showing it. Mm-hmm. If it doesn't work for you and you're truly interested, then we'll set up an alternative time. But we give them two or three different options, and then we show them the property. And that works. Again, when we get owners who want to circumvent how we do our business, it's not a good fit for us. If they want to tell us, this is how I do it, I'm willing to learn, and because we've learned from owners too. We're not totally a blind eye to that. We're open to listening, but when we get an owner that wants us to do it their way, or that it's not a good fit. Right. It's like going to the doctor and saying, hey, when we do this heart surgery, I want you to go through the left ventricle instead of, no, I'm not going to do it that way. Okay, because I'm the professional. Let me handle it.
So, and to double down, basically, give specific dates, but be flexible if you must. Like, we have to be. Yep.
Okay, so we're marketing the property. So we're setting up showing. So we're pre-screening the tenants. Hey, here's what we look for. We look for at least 3 to 4 times what the rent is. If you don't have a good credit score, we're going to want more income. If you have a great credit score, then less income is probably okay. But we have our parameters. We're not going to show you, or we'd prefer not to show you the property if you tell us, hey, I'm not currently employed.
Right.
Or, hey, I'm working and I make $2,000 a month, but the rental is $1,500. That's just, you're not going to be able to afford it. What? Please don't waste your time or ours. And then sometimes they'll get to still, you're talking to a deaf ear when you talk to some of these people. They still show up. They're unemployed, or they make $1,500 a month, and the rent's $1,000, and they fill out an application. And I tell my leasing agents, let that client know that they're most likely going to get turned down. Save the $30. Don't take their $30. These people can't afford it, and just be upfront with them. But some of them still, they want to give you the $30. Say, look, you're probably not going to get. And then some of them actually get mad at us because we ran their application, we turned them down, and we told them probably 3 times that you're probably going to get turned down. That's just what we do. That's what you deal with.
It's in a way, it's almost like you have to coach, potential when you're pre-screening, because if someone, like you said, if someone's,
we're just trying to help them.
That's it's opening their eyes a little bit. Yeah.
Hey, we have some. Oh, you can't afford this $1,000 rental, but how about we have a $600 rental? How about that? Mm-hmm. We're just trying to help you. That's all.
There you go.
Okay, so we show the property. Once we get a couple showings and we have somebody interested, then they can go online. They can fill out our application. They can pay for it online. They fill it out online. Once we get the application, typically I'm going to ask my leasing agents not to, because I review every application at this point. I can't say I will in the future, depending how big we get, but right at this point, I review every application. And my leasing agents know what I want. I want to see recent pay stubs that shows they do have a job. If they've only been at their job a short time, I want to show proof of where they worked before and how much they made there. An application that comes to me and says, I've only been at my job for 1 month, that's not a good sign. Okay, I understand you're at your job at 1 month and you're a nurse. What'd you do before that?
Right.
I was in school. Oh, understandable. Mm-hmm. Okay, we can work with that. Or you're a nurse 1 month and then you were off for a year, and then before that you were a waitress, and then before that you went to school. It's questionable. What'd you do for a year?
Right.
It's just like a mortgage company. They do the same thing. They're just way more detailed. Mm-hmm. Okay. Then we look at how much debt they have. If their credit score is super high, but they have a lot of debt, the BMW, they have the motorcycle, they have the ATVs, they just have student loans, they have a lot of debt, they're not going to be able to afford the apartment because although the credit score is good, their income is just saturated with debt. Mm-hmm. And vice versa. We get people that have a lower credit score, but they have no debt. And so we have to look at the total picture. How long they've been at their job, how long have they rented, did they get a good landlord reference from their current landlord? If they were only there for a short time, maybe a year, where did they live before that? Because I don't want people who have only been in an apartment for a year moving, let's say, one neighborhood over, they're moving from that neighborhood to this neighborhood in 1 year. Why are you moving? Why are you moving?
Right.
I need to know that. Oh, because we wanted a bigger apartment. And then you do a little research and you realize that, okay, that's legitimate, but where'd you live before that? Oh, we lived in another apartment in one neighborhood over. Why'd you move from that apartment? Oh, just because we didn't like it. So it's a trend.
Right.
So you're moving every year.
Right.
I don't know if I want you as a tenant
right.
unless everything else is perfect.
Right. So
those are things that we look at that the average landlord doesn't see.
So now, from the outside looking in, and I already know the answer because we're doing this, so I'm kind of softballing you in here. What would you say to people, because this is a concern, but I think this is a concern that people need to, that tenants would have, that tenants need to get over. That's just my personal opinion. What would you say to people that would say that you're being too intrusive, to their personal lives? Because I've read that before. That's a complaint I've seen online.
You can only imagine what we have to put up with. Some people don't want to give you information. I'm like, well, then you're not a good fit for us.
Then you're obviously not right.
Yeah, we had one. We literally had a guy who he went to some agency that we were discriminating against him. It was a black man. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Now I got to go in front of this discriminating authority, whatever thing, and I have to get him all this information. I'm like, dude, we rent to like 300 of minorities out of 600. What are you talking about? Why do I even have to spend energy and time defending myself?
Correct.
Okay, that's what we had to put up with. And we literally in this building, we have like another a man that lives there. Mm-hmm. And there's a 4-unit building. And I'm like, what? Why am I?
I think people fail to remember that they're living in somebody else's. They're really. I mean, you're renting somebody else's home.
Long and short of it is, this is the kind of stuff that you want to be a landlord that you have to be ready to deal with. Okay, that you don't think about. You don't think about discrimination or people giving you a hard time because you spent their $30 when you told them that they probably weren't going to get approved anywhere. They're mad because you turned them down. Well, I can't help it that you told me you didn't have a criminal background, but now you deal drugs and you were incarcerated for 3 years, right. And you lied to me.
What would your best advice be in a coaching manner to anybody listening that, if they have resistance from somebody, what's the best way to explain it? And I know we're dealing more with But if it was somebody that was going to rent to an actual tenant,